Podcasting from somewhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, the birthplace of Bruce Lee, the iPhone, and the bendy straw. This is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
There was a dream a million miles away. There was fire in
Amazon.com. You know, I won't be surprised if more and more stuff that I shop for, buy, and get shipped to my home comes from Amazon. It's just a reality, right? And if this is your reality, go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon banner to get to Amazon. Why am I asking you to do so? Well, it is a no-cost-to-you way, if you like listening to Ruel's Running Podcast. It is a way that you can help the show out without spending more than you've already spent while shopping at the good folks at Amazon.com. So help us out. Go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon.com site, and shop, connect, and enjoy. Hey everybody. This is not a re-up, but a re-up of one form or another, and I'll let you know what that's about, what I'm talking about. But yeah, welcome to the Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host. It's been a while since I did a current podcast, and a lot of stuff has happened in my world. And, you know, there's no way that I'm going to be able to cover a crap ton of what it's all about, because that's just not going to happen. But, as you hear me fumble through my cars and my car and the keys, but, you know, as it crosses my mind, I may, if I find it needed, talk about any bit of information, if that even makes sense. Yeah, so feeling rusty behind the mic, but that's okay. I think any long-time listener of the show knows how this thing flows, and it'll get that way. But yeah, I did want to flip the mics on, and I did want to talk a bit. It's the end of July. Summer, at least how it's defined. Summer ends in August or sometime in early September or something like that, right? Right when the that September holiday kicks in. But the other way to define it is when the kids get back into school. The kids get back into school the tail end of August, so that's how we sort of define our when summer is. But yeah, we've taken family trips, some short ones and an extended one. Took the family to Disneyland again, and it was awesome, and it was also exhausting. But I told Trey Beecham. I caught up with him while I was out on that trip that, you know, it's pretty exhausting to a point where I feel like after the trip I felt trained up to actually do another 50K run. He said, why don't I just do 100K? And I thought, that's an idea. But yeah, that's something else. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the past several episodes, the re-up episodes. It's kind of neat for me to look back to see how far this podcast has come, how it's evolved. It's good, it's bad, however it is. So I try and pick and choose stuff that I felt like might need resurfacing for folks who are, you know, looking for something new to listen to by me providing something old. A lot of busy going on with home here, and a lot of busy with work, and it's kept me distracted in more ways than one. One is that I've had to take a break from the podcast this summer. I was already in that trajectory of needing that break, and I'm okay with it. I've long since gotten over that podcaster. There's this thing where podcasters, they're overly concerned about stats and numbers, and they're overly concerned about the precision that it takes to produce a podcast like so many other podcasts out there. And I'm okay with not being that guy. Right? Early on, I geeked out. I kept on looking at numbers, and it just consumes you. And same with committing. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the commitment to the podcast, because there's a lot of great information out there. And as a listener of many podcasts myself, I come to expect a certain quality, I guess, and frequency. And but at the same time, that beauty of the podcast is you can choose to go that route, or you can choose to not, or you can choose to switch it up, right? And I hope that anybody who is interested in creating their own, that they know that they learn that you don't have to kill yourself and subject yourself to that mental anguish and cause yourself to give up, right? I'm not giving up. You've had to pull from many bags of tricks and bend and be flexible of how you want to be able to put out something, right? Early on, folks go back, my whole thing was, I want to celebrate, living a life that is, one, no sugar, no grains, right? And put myself out there as an example of someone who's been able to benefit health-wise from living that type of lifestyle, right? No sugar, no grains. And also wanted to not limit it to that, but also talk about how, in addition to living an NSNG lifestyle, how I'm able to pursue my own personal running pursuits, whether that be the solo missions. If you can go back to old episodes where I talk about running 50Ks, or attempting a 50 and failing at it multiple times, and things like that. Talking about, I've talked about how I've fueled and approached planning for the runs, and celebrated the accomplishments of friends who are many levels greater athletes, in ultra running. So, I also wanted to celebrate. I call it celebrating, but it's just sort of like, hey, if you're out there, doing what you got to do to make it through, you're running something. And that's why early on I would say, you think you may not be running, and you may not be putting one foot in front of the other, but trust me, you are running something. Otherwise, we're just staying put, and nothing's happening, and we're just giving up in life. And we can't give up in life because, I can't, because I've got 3 little ones. I have a wife, and And they count on me. I count on them. We feed off of each other as far as, energy, and it's a give and take, and that's why I'm around. This whole podcast is sort of my selfish endeavor, just like running has been, because everybody needs a little bit of something to call their own, a little bit of something to be that practice, that meditation, that their own thing. People like to do yoga, people like to do Pilates, people like to run, people like to play video games, people like to meditate, write, whatever it is. People like to do triathlons, so whatever it is. And right at the moment, I can't do the old stuff, my former passions, like martial arts. Back in the day, training in Muay Thai and practicing, a bunch of Asian arts, Pencak Silat, Kali Arnis Eskrima, all that stuff. I love, training, drilling, and working with folks and teaching folks and being taught. That stuff's, it just, I really love it. But I'm not in a place right now where I can take that time away to do that. It costs money to find a place, a club, to participate in and be involved in, and that'll be time away that I'd have to take away from family, and I can't do that. Which is why getting into running is awesome. I would just pick and choose my time, and if it was a significant run, then just coordinate it with family, or involve the family. The solo runs in the past have been that, head out really early in the morning and tell my family to meet me at the halfway point so that I could get more water, and say hi and break the monotony, and have them be involved with, the quest to accomplish something what I felt is, make me happy. At the same time, try and be an example to my kids that this is something that's possible. We all know that, when you raise your kids, when you set an example, you don't have to teach them anything. You just sort of have to perform around them, and it'll be that reference point where they're like, okay, that's just something that dad does, or what mom does, and it could be something that is extraordinary. I'm not saying I'm doing anything extraordinary, but you can do the extraordinary and have your kids grow up around it, and they'll just think that's normal. And what that does is it sets them up, I feel, to be able to just get off and running at an extraordinary level. And an example of that is my father, the artist. He was pretty handy with a pencil, a pen, a brush, marker, hammer, saw, glue gun, foam core board, a lot of these things. He was a builder, he was a creator, he was an artist, he was an illustrator, he was, all of those things. I grew up around that, and he had me participate in some of that stuff. And to me, it's just like, that's just what it is. So early on, it seemed that I was exceptional in school when it came to matters of doing things related to art and craft and whatever. So, that's why I've carried that on growing up. Like, I'm able to do things, put things together easier than others, despite learning that I have my own disabilities. I'm a colorblind individual, and I've talked about it on the show, right? Somehow I'm able to make stuff despite not having the full-on ability to see the way a lot of others see the world in color, in their color, my colors. I think my color sensing ability has been dulled out, I see stuff, but I can only imagine that things pop more than I'm able to see.
Coming up, Rue gives us something else to think about. How vague is that, Ruel? Geez. Could you be any vaguer, Ruel? Well, it's all coming up on Ruel's Running. Okay. The book is called Eat Happy, Gluten-Free, Grain-Free, Low-Carb Recipes for a Joyful Life by me, Anna Vicino. Eat Happy has 154 delicious grain-free, gluten-free recipes that are also free of any processed sugars. There are meats, fish, sides, soup, starters, casseroles, slow cooker recipes, breakfast dishes, and even desserts to satisfy any sweets craving you might have, all with virtually no sugar. If you are low-carb, paleo, are wanting to keep autoimmune issues at bay, or just want to lose extra weight, Eat Happy gives you comfort food where you won't miss the sugars or grains, so your body and brain can feel happy from eating real food. Okay, go get it then. Now's your chance. Yay! Yay!
At any rate, so, be the example your kids follow. They can be better. They can be off and running ahead of the game. So, things like running, I'm hoping that, they'll see. I mean, they're already, my sons are already at, like you like to imagine every typical kid to be able to just go on the playground and run, just like kids do. I like to think that, I'm setting the way for my kids to be runners themselves. I've not had them participate in any races. I've not had them watch me do any races, the few that I've done. But I do look forward to being able to just taking them out on my runs, whether they follow me on a bike or, we just kind of jog it out together. And, hopefully that'd be something that they could take with them and carry with them throughout their life as something that they could always come back to. I also think that, it's something they could learn to be meditative or therapy of some sort, because it is, when you go out running, if you're doing it right, you're not paying attention to the technology and the devices, and it's just you and the moment. Because if you don't pay attention, you'll crash or you'll get struck. Something will happen. You don't want that. But yeah, running's awesome. Running's great. It's something that I fall back to. I didn't learn to run because my parents were runners. I learned to run because I ran cross country in high school, and I was average. I wasn't exceptional. And it was a social thing for me. My friends did cross country, so I did cross country. My friends did soccer, so I played soccer. And you play the forward position because the coach wants to exploit your ability to run a longer distance because of cross country. You join the track team, or you try out for track, and the coach tries to exploit your ability to run longer because you have done cross country, so they want to put you on the longer distance track events. What are they? I don't even really know. Well, back then, running wasn't enjoyable. The only time it was enjoyable was when I used it as that sort of meditative therapy. On the weekend, I would run out of my house, throw open the screen door with screen and wood, and head north, where I lived. I lived in this village, one of the northern villages on the island of Guam. What's up, Guam? What's up, Guam? And I would run north, and way up north, there's an Air Force base, Anderson Air Force Base, Air Force and Army base. I would run north until I get just by the main entrance of the base, not go in and then I would run back home. I would run along the side of the shoulder of 2-lane road, 1 lane each direction, and then sometimes it was 2 lanes each direction. But that was the best running that I did when I was in high school. It had nothing to do with time and being out. And I lost all of that interest when I advanced my high school lifestyle by taking up cigarettes and alcohol. Isn't that great? And partying and having a different type of social life. And but it all kind of came back around when I really knew that I was getting out of shape. I turned to 2 things: martial arts and running. I had no knowledge of a good diet. Back then it was all what was it, tuna sandwiches, supplements, some running, some strength training. Managed to take off a bunch of weight sometime after high school when after I had packed on a bunch of weight. Not good. I did really good at thinning out post high school, and and I felt like I put a lot of effort into it, and I did. But back then there was this substance called ephedrine, and it was an ingredient in what was called a metabolic enhancer. Right? The product was Ripped Fuel by Twin Labs, and I was on that stuff, and didn't think it was a problem. Eventually there were news articles about kids with pre-existing heart conditions taking the stuff and falling dead, and I didn't think it had anything to do with me and anything to be concerned about. Then that stuff was taken off the shelf. That's fine. And I stopped taking that stuff. But it wasn't until years later that I realized that it was essentially like speed. Right? I was thinking, okay, if it was framed that way, I wouldn't have taken the stuff. I thought I was, because marketing, right? This stuff is supposed to be able to do this stuff for you, and there's all of these benefits. Get ripped, get cut, speed up your metabolism. So, didn't know. Let's see. Years later, I finished college, get a job, my first .com company, and I, in that period, go running during my lunch break, and start up some martial arts as well, and wanting to strive for a certain body composition. I get back into these supplement products, these metabolic enhancers, without the ephedrine. It was the ephedrine-free versions of what I used to take. And then I tried the other brands, the hydroxy cup. And my manager, who was also a friend, and he was actually the same guy that ended up making our wedding cake. You know, really great guy, really cool guy. Anyways, you know, he noticed that I was, you know, we would go out on runs because I got him into running during the lunch period. Had him overcome his, I think it was his back or knee issues by just going slow and easy on runs. Something, you know, something beneficial for our health. You know, enjoy the outdoors and get some exercise, you know. And he noticed I was taking these supplements, and he basically demanded that I get off the stuff because of, you know, the same concerns that, you know, you might be wrecking your heart, damaging your heart, your body, and, you know, you can get something bad could happen. And, you know, I was only doing it because of old habits. It wasn't really doing anything for me the way that I had gotten it when I was on that other stuff. And you know, he did a good enough job to change my mind about it. So I quit the stuff. And there you go. You know, it wasn't until many years later that I got back into more exercise, you know, with running, you know, training for the half marathons and the marathon, and knowing that despite all of that activity, I was still able to pack on the weight, and didn't make any sense. You know, I was the kind of guy who wanted to do well at the marathon. Everybody else was running well, you know, everybody else, and here I am, this guy who had a level of physical ability, having done martial arts and cross country and soccer. But why was it I was the guy that was putting on weight, and I was the guy who was being passed up by folks who were, you know, older than me, bigger than me? I mean, if you look, I was looking at an old finishing photo of the marathon that I did. I was suffering. Meanwhile, there was this big guy behind me who was smiling ear to ear. You know, he was having a blast, and I was, you know, halfway dead. So I didn't make any sense. There was something that I had to do. You know, and I've talked about it a lot. You know, I went from, you know, from a certain way to seeking that shift that would help me to improve my running. And my thought was, I just had to change what I ate. And I happened to find Rich Roll's book, Finding Ultra, and move towards being a vegetarian, learning that I could survive, I could thrive, you know, eating less meat or no meat. And then you know, I was able to get off some weight, and I was curious, okay, if I continued on this trajectory, what would my running look like? And so, you know, I was doing things that you'd see Rich Roll do on YouTube videos, like make kale shakes and stuff. So I made kale shakes myself. And the way, in addition to just cutting out, well, just put it away. It was a way for me to get whole produce into my system that I ordinarily wouldn't have consumed, you know, otherwise. So I was basically getting better quality food into my body, and I was feeling good, and I was doing all this stuff. Then, you know, and then I caught Vinny Tortorich on my quest to finding more podcast interviews with Rich Roll. I found Vinny Tortorich's podcast. This is really early on. Oh my God. And I didn't care for Vinny because he sounded, I don't know, he just wasn't my cup of tea. But, I don't know, I just kept listening. And I listened enough to him where I learned that, Rich has the vegan lifestyle, and I'm thinking of going vegan at that point. But then I'm thinking, Vinny also has his own thing. But what he was able to do that I didn't get from listening to anybody else, Rich Roll or anybody else. At the time, Rich Roll didn't even have his own podcast. But what Vinny was saying was how to use sugar strategically for harder efforts. And a whole lot of how you can improve your nutrition and still have it be adequate for your athletic performance. So that opened up my ears, right? And what that did was I paid attention more. I paid more attention to Vinny. I paid more attention. And then I was pretty much sold that I didn't want to go vegan, that I just needed to do what Vinny was prescribing, and that's eliminate the sugar, the sweeteners, and eliminate, the processed grains. Pay attention, Then when he got to that point in his podcast where he talked about things about dietary ketosis, I paid attention to what was behind that and how that lined up with what he was teaching with NSNG, no sugar, no grains. So there's a lot of experimenting and a lot of benefit. And, that was fantastic. And a lot of people are finding that out as well. And that's been like 4 or 5 years, and it's been an interesting journey to see, what happens when you make these changes. It's been a long journey, such that, I try to play my part, not just trying to be an example on this podcast, but, being active in one form or another within the Vinny Tortorich's No Sugar No Grains group. A group that has grown tremendously since been 5 years. The group is, what is it? It's not quite 19,000 members, but it'll get there. I suspect it'll get there by the end of the year. It's kind of terrifying, but because it's work, right? It's work that I share with the whole community as far as helping each other out and giving encouragement and being an example. Everybody in the community is that way, and it's great because that's how I got to where I was, because that existed. I just happen to be one of the few folks that are, I don't know, cursed or privileged to admin the group, along with Lonnie Beecham, Mark Thompson, and Tallulah Tepper, right? We do what we can to provide, that it's primarily making sure that, that people come into the group first look human based on the Facebook profile, right? They don't look like they're there to cause trouble. So we have to do a level of like, okay, each admin has to make a call, right? Yes or no, and then we make the decision, we let people in, And then while in, if someone starts to not play right, then we take whatever action is necessary, whether that be remove posts, or remind folks there are group guidelines to be respectful and encouraging and still have fun in the spirit of Vinny's podcast. Early on, Vinny and Anna, they had a level of humor that some find might not be agreeable, but everybody's different, but it works. They're true to who they are, and it seems to come off well on the podcast, and they're super successful at it. And now you've got Vinny and Andy and Vinny and Nicole Racine and Vinny and Anna and the one-on-one guest shows and Vinny's listener shows and all that good stuff, right? Anyways, I ramble, I drift. I'm like I said, I'm a bit rusty on the mic, so I'm just kind of free-flowing it. No real structure. I'm actually on my way to the train station. I thought about you guys a lot, right? I thought about, okay, is there a different direction that I need to take this podcast? I don't know. I don't know. Do I need to, force myself to do certain things, that might not flow well with, how I run my life and my family? Do I want to do anything that disrupts that? I need to figure it out. It's part of the journey. It's, I think it's fine, I do want to be able to, I've talked about getting that next run. Not sure what it is. Want to be able to do that and share that. Share that moment, share that journey, share that process. Not because I want to be the, oh, look what I did. No, but it's more like, look what this guy did. That's how he did it. I wouldn't do it that way. Or look what this guy did. Maybe there's something a little bit there that I can take away from. I don't know. So I just wanted to just catch up. And still trying to figure out what to do with my runs. There's a lot more I would like to share. I just need to sort it all out. It's been pretty hectic. And go with that. Thanks for listening, guys. This is not going to be the greatest episode. That's okay. May not have provided any value. That's okay. Hopefully, somewhere in the archives is something that is. And I want to put it out there. If anybody has any questions or comments or feedback, send them my way. Send them my way. On email, on the website, ruelsrunning.com, and if you want to hang out, be a little bit more intimate, there's a Facebook group. So remember, hug a friend, hug your family, eat something delicious, and go run. Something. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.